Hi, my name is Curtis Wagner, and video games made me who I am.
Countered! Holy shit!
What the fuck is going on in the car?
What's up?
This was tough.
Why is he lying down?
Let's go. I powder his ass.
Oh, I'm in the cone! I walked into the cone to charge. Dude, I don't want to talk about it. My creative practice really started with making memes. And when I started at college, I was in biology. And after 3 years, I realized that I wasn't really having any fun and that I needed to do something different with my life. Given my previous experience with meme making, I thought to myself, well, maybe I could just make memes for a living. And to be honest, that didn't really pan out. But that line of thinking gave me enough perspective to realize that there are a ton of jobs for creative people out there in the world. And video games in particular are special to me because they have the ability to tell stories in a way that no other medium can. They're responsible for some of my strongest relationships and some of the most touching moments in my life. They can be heartfelt. They can be badass. They can be relaxing. And every once in a while, one comes along that is an incredible combination of all three. The question I asked of myself is, how can I create these wonderful experiences for others? So I decided to make a game. And the first thing I made was this. It's a concept sketch of what the main character might look like. And then that became this. And then from this came the working name of the game, Ninja Knight. And then I got to work. What's up? This is, I guess, the first devlog for Ninja Knight. Okay, this is a devlog for Ninja Knight number 2. Hi, welcome to devlog 4. Hi, welcome back to devlog 6. Howdy, this is devlog 8. And I kept track of my progress. Because it turns out, making games is pretty hard. It requires a lot of skills. Development, visual design, sound design, gameplay design, animation, pixel art, project management, playtesting, gathering feedback, and heatedly searching the internet for obscure solutions to my spaghetti code. These were all skill sets that I had to develop. And the whole process makes me appreciate even more those who have walked the path before me and who have created the work that I aspire to replicate the quality of. Speaking of which, let's talk inspiration. I wanted to start by defining my overall aesthetic, which had me using a lot of Pinterest to nail down exactly what I wanted things to look like. My visual style was most heavily influenced by dark and occultic aesthetics in games like Bloodborne or Castlevania, but a lot of that crunchy, 1-bit, monochromatic goodness came from a tiny indie game called Downwell. It had that really nice monochromatic art style with just one solid primary color that I stole. As far as gameplay inspiration goes, there is a lot that I drew from here. One of the biggest players was Hollow Knight. It was the original namesake of the game before I changed it, and it is a game that I love dearly. Sekiro was another game that I drew from when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with the gameplay loop of the game. Sekiro has one of the strongest core gameplay loops of any game that I have played before, and I was really interested in figuring out how to replicate that in my own work. Another 2D platformer in the same yoke as what I was creating is Dead Cells. It's a roguelite 2D platformer that uses a lot of the same combat elements as Arcana does, and I was very interested in how they kept things fresh and made sure the combat felt satisfying. Another big place that I draw from is fighting games. Part of that is the satisfaction that they put into animation, the weight that they make characters feel, and the aesthetic choices that they make for just making every moment of the game feel important. That was something that I wanted to replicate, especially when it came to the combo system in my game and having the player attack multiple times in a row. It's also what inspired the blood meter, or the super meter, that I implemented in the game as well. Some other miscellaneous inspirations include Arcane, Yomi Hustle, N++, and Enter the Gungeon. There is so much I could dive into when it comes to discussing the specifics of the project, but I'll just have to keep things brief so that I can fit everything in the video. The largest hurdle was definitely learning programming. I had a limited knowledge of coding before this project, but I was mostly unfamiliar with Unity and C# as a programming language. Another area that I improved in was game design. There are 3 main principles to making a game feel satisfying for players. They're called the 3 C's, and they work in tandem with a core gameplay loop, which could be an entire video of its own. They are context, challenge, and catharsis. Context is the storytelling. It's what makes players want to know what's going to happen to the world and to the characters. Challenge is pretty self-explanatory. Games need to be challenging in one way or another so players don't get bored. The final C is catharsis, which is everything else that makes your game feel good on a moment-to-moment level. In effect, it's anything that activates that lizard brain satisfaction. Implementing the 3 C's gave me a strong structure of gameplay and informed many of the decisions I made when it came to creating the most engaging experience possible within a short time frame. This project really tested my ability to engage in the creative process. The biggest point of learning was that oftentimes frustration is part of the process, especially when it comes to development. Breakdowns in motivation, burnout, and frustration are not indications of a failure to be creative. They're a natural part of what it means to engage with and to create media. My biggest takeaway from the project seems very self-explanatory when I first say it. Want to be a better animator? Fine. Animate. Want to be a better programmer? Write code. Want to be a better game designer? Design games. Creative practices are just that. Practice. You have to constantly work at it, often in the face of doubt and uncertainty. I'm proud of Arcana. It's the culmination of a ton of creative skills that I built over the last 4 years, both through the context of school and personally. But truthfully, I'm even more excited about the future. What games will I make with these newfound skills? What creative people will I meet? What stories will I tell? Thanks for listening. I want to shout out a couple of extra inspirations and people who helped me along the way here at the end. Sean Nichols, Kurt Nakasato, Joe Nelson, Ben Donnelly, Kevin Sweet for being an amazing mentor, Mobius Games, Team Cherry, and all of the other developers out there who make wonderful game experiences for the people around the world. I hope you enjoy Arcana.
Games for to win or lose.